Hey everybody. Looks like everything's working. Let's see here, maybe not. Hello. All right. Hi everybody. Welcome to the first official Wildwrx podcast. Gonna be posting the video of the podcast on YouTube and then getting the audio up on iTunes, so you should be able to listen to it on there. This isn't gonna be a super edited podcast. It's gonna be pretty raw, so kind of deal with me on that. Today, in the first episode of the podcast, I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself, the company of Wildwrx, what we're doing, what the future holds for us, and a little bit more about the podcast and what we're going to be doing down the road with that. So, got some notes here, so you're going to have to kind of work with me on that a little bit, and I'll go through a little bit of what I wanted to talk about, and we'll go from there. All right, so starting with myself, grew up in Wisconsin, Portage, Wisconsin. Some of you might have been through there. I'm sure a lot of you listening probably live in Portage, but it's a great little town where the Fox River and the Wisconsin River kind of meet up, and then a man-made canal was dug between the two so that trappers, explorers, trade, that kind of stuff could go through the area via the rivers. So that's where I'm from. I grew up right next to a big creek and was always doing a bunch of hunting and fishing, camping, just loved being outdoors. So from a really young age, I fell in love with the outdoors and wildlife in particular, and I really had a sweet spot for animals, and I knew that in the future I'd wanna work with animals one way or another. I was always a big fan of Steve Irwin and Jeff Corwin, that kind of stuff. I always wanted to be that sort of, TV personality animal guy. So this is a little bit like that, I guess. But I went to UW-Stevens Point for a whole semester for wildlife, and I ended up dropping out of school. Life kind of happened, so I ended up dropping out and had a few odd jobs in between now and then, but now I've started up my own business here at Wildwrx, and I'm doing what I love, and I'm really happy that every day I get to wake up and do this amazing job, meet a lot of great people, and deal with animals every day. So now, what is Wildwrx? Some of you are probably wondering. Wildwrx is a wildlife management and removal company. So basically what we do on a daily basis, we'll get calls if a squirrel gets into someone's attic. We'll go remove the squirrel, patch up the hole, make sure it doesn't happen again. That's a pretty common one. We deal a lot with bats, raccoons. We just had a possum in a basement a little bit ago. Sounds like someone just got here. I'm going to pause the show for a minute. All right, sorry about that, guys. Got to keep the customers happy, All right, so we were talking about Wildwrx, a little bit about what Wildwrx is. So that's kind of what we do on a daily basis around here. The other thing, I'd like to kind of coin the term wildlife relations right now. That's kind of what I have in mind for the future of Wildwrx, just a better relationship with wildlife, humans and wildlife conflict. You hear the term wildlife conflict a lot, and I don't love the term just because that makes it seem like it's the wildlife's fault when it really isn't. They in a lot of cases they were there first, and I think it's our responsibility to kind of have a better relationship with our environment and the wildlife that's already living there. So instead of wildlife conflict and wildlife management, wildlife removal, I'd like to be a wildlife relations service. What that means, basically, just have a better relationship with your environment. Now, as far as the environment goes, every day we're losing habitat for animals all around the world. In the U.S., it might be less noticeable, but every day some little wooded lot, 5-acre lot, gets bought up and a house gets put on it. So this is kind of the new landscape. We're becoming more and more an urban society. We're losing that habitat. So we need these animals to have a place to go, even in an urban environment. We need to have green spaces. We need to allow these animals to still thrive in an urban environment, because many of them are capable of doing just fine in an urban environment. And I believe that the future of wildlife management is going to be really geared towards urban wildlife. Whether you like it or not, the population on the globe just keeps getting bigger. So we're going to have to figure something out. And if we want these animals to be here in the future, we're going to have to do something now. We're going to have to put things in place to make sure that they stay here. I don't think that there's any reason that we can't have, buffalo migrating through a city. If that's what the new, world is going to look like, I think it's better than having no buffalo. If they're a little more habituated to humans, but they can still migrate and do the things they need to do, then I think that's how it should be. The other thing I have written down here is money, and no one starts a business without, wanting to make money. So that is what we're here for, is to make some money. And the reason I want to make some money, and hopefully a lot of money, is so that we can do these sort of things, do wildlife projects. I want to be able to build these green spaces over roads where migration corridors aren't being cut off by 4-lane highways. I want to create big habitat projects. That's all future stuff for Wildwrx. What we're doing right now, like I mentioned, is mostly removal and management. Bats, squirrels, raccoons, that sort of thing, moles. We're doing a lot of media. So obviously we're doing a podcast. I'm sure the podcast is going to change quite a bit from today. Right now we're just doing it in the Wildwrx garage here. Hopefully we'll get a studio set up, a little bit better audio, make the experience a little more enjoyable for you guys, and I'll probably only get better at it, or at least I'm hoping I will. But we've got the podcast, we've got YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, Snapchat. Always forget Snapchat. But that's kind of what we're doing right now with Wildwrx. As far as the future, I called it Wildwrx for a reason, because I'd like to do Wildwrx. Creating big infrastructure for wildlife, like I mentioned, the bridges. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I've shared a few videos on our Facebook page of these, migration bridges over the interstate. I believe the one was from the Wyoming Department of Natural Resources, or Wyoming Fish and Game. So go on our Facebook page and check that out, or just look it up on Google. These wildlife bridges are really cool, and it's a really great thing for the animals. It helps them, some of these animals migrate hundreds of thousands of miles from in between seasons. So they're going from their summer range to their winter range, and typically in the summer, they're maybe at a higher elevation. They're eating all the food that's available to them in those higher latitudes or higher elevations. And then as the weather gets colder, and they've eaten a lot of those resources, and the plants start to die off. They have to migrate back into the valleys, to basically sustain themselves through the winter. It's a little bit easier living. And these interstates or 4-lane highways a lot of times will cut right through their migration path that they've been traveling for hundreds of years. So a lot of times they're either forced to just turn around and try to survive off of what little resources are left from their summer range, and typically that doesn't work out well. You see a lot of winter kill with that, or they try to get across the interstate, and you can guess what happens there. So I'd like to do some stuff like that, create big wildlife areas inside cities, just raise a little bit of awareness for homeowners, what they can do, and just I'd really like to do some big projects, and that's why we need money. I'd also like to do some education. I'd like to speak, go to schools. I think it's important that the next generation has a passion for wildlife as well, and I think our generation right now needs to kind of lead the way with that. I think we need to teach our kids the importance of wildlife and why we want them here, and we gotta really display that to them. That's about all I've got for us today. If you want to know more about Wildwrx, feel free to contact us. Right now we've got a few promotions going. We got some free inspections for people that qualify, and I really suggest to people to get our elite membership. With that, it's $20 a month, and you're going to get a ton of great services from us. We're going to treat you right. We're going to take care of you. You're going to get free inspections, 15% off. That's just a few of the things that the elite membership offers. Like I said, if you want to know more, go to wildwrx.com. That is the best place to find pretty much anything that's going on with us. Right on the home page there, we've got the Get in Touch with Us tab. You can send us a message on there. We can answer any questions you have. We can schedule an inspection from there. That's just usually the easiest way to do things. But other than that, make sure you follow us at Wildwrx HQ or Wildwrx at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our YouTube channel, Snapchat, and Periscope. We're going to be on all of those. And we'll be putting up a podcast every Monday morning, and every Monday evening at 7 p.m. we'll be putting out an episode of our episode of Wild Work, which is our online video series. So we'll be doing that every Monday evening at 7 p.m. And just stay tuned with us, because there's going to be a ton of stuff. We'll be putting a ton of stuff on social media. We're going to have more podcasts, more episodes of Wild Work coming out, and it's only going to get better from here. So if you thought that this first podcast today was horrible, that is understandable and okay, because I promise you it's only going to get better, only going to be more fun. This podcast is... I'm really excited about it. We're going to have a lot of guests on here. I've already got a few people lined up that I'm really excited to have on the show. One in particular, I'm hoping we can have him on within the next week or two, Mitch Baker. He is a avid outdoorsman. He's on the Wisconsin Conservation Congress, and he's a really knowledgeable guy, really passionate about it. So I'd like to have him on here. We're going to share a bunch of info for homeowners and people just interested in what we do on how to have a better relationship with the wildlife in their own backyards, how to maintain your house to make sure that you don't run into issues, how to manage the wildlife you're dealing with on a daily basis. And we're going to bring up some hot topics, some issues in the wildlife management field, and just have a good old time here on the podcast. So make sure you stay tuned. This podcast was only about 15 minutes long, and I'm guessing pretty much everyone after today will be quite a bit longer than that. So listen to us when you can. We're going to put the audio up on iTunes, and we're also going to have the video up on YouTube, so you can find us on there. So with that, I'm going to leave you with our basically our slogan here at Wildwrx, and that is work today, wild tomorrow. And what that means is, the work we do today is going to make sure that we still have wild tomorrow. So our generation is working for the next generation's wild. So with that, have a good day, and we'll see you next Monday.